Joining us right now, if you're joining us at this particular moment of our broadcast, you know it's time for the People's Court. And tonight, we're talking about a subject that's close to your heart and mine. Matter of fact, your pocket and mine.
Well, I do not know just what can be done to reverse this train that has already left the station, because it clearly means that as a country we have transitioned from NHIF that we, has served us for the longest of time, and to SHA, Social Authority.
So
Social Health Authority, And so the conversation is still very important at this point. Perhaps at the inception stages, we do not know just how much you have engaged. We do not know whether you've gone ahead to register. But then again, that's the reason why we're having this conversation right here, just so no one is left behind, right?
Absolutely.
And so we get into this very crucial conversation alongside the ladies and gentlemen that are on set this evening. We have played a couple of stories that are in relation to that. Kenyans saying that they're a little bit confused and all that. We do not want to have that confusion anymore. So let us engage. As always, the hashtag is the People's Court. I'll be looking at some of your comments as we continue with the broadcast. 22047 is the SMS short code as well. They can call us live, right? The numbers will be down on their screen. So whom do we have?
Now, I think we'll go in order of the one who's furthest from me. We've got Mr. Henry Mushwenge, who's the treasurer of the Boda Safety Association. Karibu sana. Karibu Henry. Everything okay? Uko sawa sawa? Very good, very good. Next to him is Lauren Mukami, who's an entrepreneur. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
Next to him is as someone who's not a stranger to this set, Dr. Brian Lishenga, the chairperson of the Rural and Urban Private Hospitals Association, RUPA. Is it RUPA or RUFA?
Rufa.
RUFA. Okay, all right. Next to him is also another health professional, a consultant psychiatrist by the name of Dr. Chitai Murabula. Karibu sana.
You.
And then next to him, of course, is Beatrice Cairo, who is a health economist. Karibu.
Asante sana.
And last, but definitely not least, is Zaina Kombo from the Amnesty International organization. And you're a manager over there. You'll tell us a little bit more about what you manage or who you manage. And if indeed you're managing, like the rest of us in the country. Karibuni sana. I mean, I think right off the bat, I just want to get your impressions. It's like almost 24 hours after the official, actually slightly over 24 hours after the official transition. I just want to get some impressions. Let's start with you. You said last but not least, we begin with you, Zaina. Talk to us from where you sit. What are your impressions about what people saw today in the various hospitals and everything?
It is frustrating, and it feels as if something is being forced down our throats. Something that we don't like, something that is bitter, is being forced down our throats. A
bitter pill to swallow. What about you, Lauren? What do you think?
I think these are dark days ahead, considering that NHIF, if it's well executed, it's the best way to go. So if this SHA shift, if it's to take, if it's to take up and just start running, it will definitely frustrate a lot of people. Mostly and the huge population is low income earners. So definitely it's not good.
All right, and the trio of ladies, Beatrice, talk to us from where you sit. What do you think about this thing?
It's a slavery. We are putting our people into slavery, and eventually it's going to affect our social impact in terms of if they're going to discriminate. For example, if I am identified as a poor person, for example, that will make me self-loathe myself. Mentally, it is going to affect me. It is going to make me feel that wewe unalipiwa na serikali, wewe huwezi afford. That in itself, they did not factor in the mental aspect or the social aspect that they're going to implicate the society into it. Because ideally, how this healthcare system was supposed to be, if I walk into a health facility, I should not be known whether I am poor or not. I should just be identified. I am a Kenyan who needs medical services. And because one way or another as a Kenyan, I'm contributing taxes in one form or another for the betterment that the government is able to operate, then it means I should be able to access these services without being discriminated or identified as either middle class or based on my payslip. And the other thing is that already we have reached the 1/3 salary, 1/3 rule salary. Already 1/3 of my salary is actually going to be given into government services. On top of that, the type of benefits I'm being given are not equivalent. The value proposition that the government is giving me is actually it's very bitter.
All right,
Yeah.
we'll get
very bitter.
we'll get into that. I can see you have some key points we will actually discuss in the course of the discussion. But Henry, talk to me from where you sit. Wanabodaboda wanasema nini from where you sit?
I think wanabodaboda bado hatujaelewa ya mambo sana. We don't understand it. We don't understand where we're coming from and where we are going to. You know, I think the fracas and confusion that has been with the education system, I think it is just being also carried to the NHIF. You see that ile kubakua on classes. So like, and how will they truly know that I'm poor or rich?
Or you're saying there's a connection between the transition to SHA and the bands in the university funding model.
Yeah.
All right.
So, and it's confusing, as you can see.
All right. Now, the two gentlemen who are actually with us tonight, let's start with you, Dr. Murabula. From where you sit, is the criticism of this transition, is it valid?
I think it is very clear that Kenyans have very many questions about this new system. And if you've listened to a number of them, they are saying that they do not understand the system. And if you go back to the first principles, good things are always easy to understand. But when something is complicated, then there are always questions as to why it's complicated. Is it, for example, complicated by design? You know, so that I don't understand it and so that I trust somebody else to understand it for me. I've spoken to many people, including well-educated Kenyans, people from the villages, and even health professionals, and people are struggling to understand this system. So is it designed to be so complex so that it's not understood? But even say, but after saying so, we can say that one of the biggest questions that Kenyans are asking is, what is the reason for us leaving NHIF? You speak to every Kenyan and they're asking, why are we moving away from NHIF when we think it was working for us?
Right.
And therefore, I think Kenyans have valid reasons. They have valid questions. Myself, when I looked at NHIF, at the social health insurance plan that has been suggested, I quickly came up with 10 questions as a healthcare professional.
As an insider.
As an insider.
I want you to share with us those questions in a moment. In fact, let me just note it down. We'll take the 10 questions raised by Dr. Chitai. We'll come to that in a second. Last but not least, Dr. Rishenga, from where you sit.
You know what? Thank you. I am known as a fierce critic of the whole architecture, but just allow me to take a different view today. By helping center this, we have a big gap between the healthcare system. Kenyans know what healthcare they want, but there's a gap between the healthcare we want and the road that we are being asked to walk to arrive to the healthcare that we want. So everybody is doubting whether this road is actually going to lead them to the healthcare they want. It's like if you had a journey and you knew you will end up in a city of gold, but where you're passing is full of thorns and snakes and funny things, you will tell the guy who's taking you, are you sure that these snakes, they lead to the city of gold? This is where we are. Okay. I will say this without fear of contradiction. We have not funded healthcare well as a country. Today, there are too many Kenyans who pay for healthcare out of pocket. There are too many Kenyans who are getting into poverty because of medical bills. At least everyone on this stage, I can bet you, has contributed to a medical bill in their lives. This is the thing we are trying to correct. So let me say this: the intention because the people who drafted this are my colleagues. The intention behind the changes is good. Because look, we have 3 baskets. We have one called primary healthcare. We have another one called the Emergency Chronic and Critical Illnesses Fund, and we have the Social Health Insurance Fund, 3 baskets. I have not met a single Kenyan who has told me, I don't want the Emergency Chronic and Critical Illnesses Fund. You can imagine if you're driving down Tomboya and you get into an accident and you landed in a hospital somewhere and you were unconscious and care was refused for you because they did not know how to pay your bill. Every Kenyan likes that. Most Kenyans like the idea that their local dispensaries and health centers are finally going to be funded through the primary healthcare fund. The only problem that Kenyans have here is what my colleague said. We have an issue with the design. I think that if we can address the issue of design, and I think most of us will go into the design, you know, for example, a question of why should I get a loan to pay for healthcare? That's a design issue that Kenyans are worried about. Why do I need to register again to get healthcare and I was already registered? That's a design issue.
All right, you're raising some key points, and we will actually come to that. I was watching the faces of the people who were as you were talking, and it was looking very interesting. You clearly are outnumbered.
I'm outnumbered.
But we shall see. We shall see about that. Folks at home, I hope you're paying attention. Get your people to listen to this conversation. Send in your questions. Express to us your concerns. Let the people who are here help us to answer some of those questions. And let us figure this out all together. Linda, what do you have?
All right. Well, I think at this very point, it is actually scary to get into the facts and the nitty-gritty details of it, because the resistance is already at the first stage. But all in all, they say you cannot do the same thing and expect different results. And that Kenyans have complained that perhaps NHIF has probably not served the purpose. That is why, as Daktari says, every one of us has had to probably get a loan or to fund a medical concern from their pockets. And here we are, we're talking about change. Historically, it's been proven that, yes, indeed, change is as good as rest. But most of the people are resistant to change. And therefore, you find that when you come to our country and pick one of the basics is that during the time where we wanted to transition, and this is in the question of education, from 844, or from the system that was there previously to 844, there was resistance. We have come to a point where we want to transition from 844 and to the competency-based curriculum. There is resistance. And at this point, then we're talking about the question of health, and perhaps some model, or this model, one of the key components or some of the key components borrowed from, countries where it has probably worked rather too well. Where is it that the government has failed in terms of getting Kenyans to understand and to perhaps soften their heart to this transition that they consider helpful compared to what we had as the NHIF? We start with you, Daktari.
So first, let me give you the 10 questions, that I came up with after looking at this. And I'm a medical doctor with over 10 years of experience in the field.
And quick.
I've participated in some policy documents in this country. So one question is, why is it mandatory? And why should registration to the SHIF be tied to government services? Number 2, why are SHIF contributions set many times higher the cost of private insurance in Kenya? You see, if it's social and government driven, we expect that it should be cheaper. Even for the highest fare, the total they pay should be less than for private insurance. So why is it many times, 3, 5 times? Some people, I think, will pay even 10 times what they will pay for private insurance. Number 3, why should the cabinet secretary for health have the powers to set the rate of contribution? So today, if you ask why they came up with 2.75%, they'll not tell you. And yet, the cabinet secretary for health can actually increase it to 5%, 10% at her or his own whim, based on nothing, because this is in the regulation and it's not in the main act. So this rate is not controlled by parliament. It's very important to know. Number 5, why are Kenyans...
Number 4, actually.
This is number 4. The means testing, can we trust it? Have they explained in simple terms the science behind it? And is it valid? Does it measure what they claim that it measures? If today somebody is working somewhere in a town, in a city, and they construct a house for their mother in the village, and this means testing is done on the mother, does that reflect their financial situation at that point in time? If somebody has some few household items, a TV, a sofa set, and so on, that they bought 10 years ago, and they indicate that that's their property, that's called fact that they bought these things sometimes back, it does not reflect the means testing. So can we trust it? And the chaos we've seen in the universities, can we trust means testing? Number 5, why are Kenyans who are unemployed above 25 years of age forced to pay 300 shillings? Who will be paying this money? And given that unemployment is not a choice, wouldn't it mean that this money will be paid by somebody who probably has already paid? Maybe a parent, maybe a brother, maybe a sister. So there are many Kenyans who will pay double. Is that fair? Number 6, why is the fine for employers who fail to pay set at 2 million shillings? So you are an employer, you fail to pay for your employees for some reasons. Maybe you are going through financial issues in your small business, and then the fine will be 2 million shillings or 3 years imprisonment. Wouldn't this really even collapse small businesses in this country? I mean, there was before a concept where you are just charged the interest at market rate, so of what you're supposed to pay. So if I have employees, I'm supposed to pay for them 100,000, then I skip to pay, I just pay with interest at market rate. But here you are paying a fine of 2 million shillings for just skipping to pay. I mean, is it fair? Even Kenyans who fail to pay, for example, Kenyans have financial issues. I'm sure there are people who may go for 1 year without paying. Now we are told, if you stay for like 12 months without paying, and now you come back to shift, you'll have to pay for the past 1 year that you are not paying, and you are not eligible even to get the services, but you'll pay retrospectively for that period. Does that make sense to anybody?
No.
Number 7, what is the value of running 3 separate funds established under the national government when actually in the constitution, healthcare is largely devolved?
Yes.
What will be the role of governors? When I read these provisions for the social health insurance, it's like devolution of health has been reversed to the national government. Unfortunately, I don't hear any governor saying anything, but that's the implication, because even if you look at the Primary Healthcare Act, which the national government should not be doing things like Primary Healthcare Act. They should just do a policy, and then county governments domesticate the policies, and then they form their own acts locally based on their needs, like what's happening in Muranga. But the question is, why these 3 funds? Even if you tell me about emergency, chronic, and critical illness fund, do we need a separate one that is separate from the main one? Can't we run it as one single? Because of the confusion it will create of people migrating from one sort of service to another.
Dr. Let's hold it at that.
Let me finish. 2 more.
You're 2 more, please.
Just 2 more.
Uh-huh.
Why design packages that are way below the true cost of healthcare in the country? I've spoken with Kenya Medical Association. I've spoken with colleagues from professional associations. Kenya Medical Association sent in 26 points on the memorandum trying to criticize the low packages. And professional organizations also sent in. I represented the Kenya Psychiatric Association, and I sent like 10 suggestions of how this should be raised, but all were ignored. But the question is, why are we setting these tariffs, what they're calling tariffs, what they're ready to pay, that is too low. It's too low. It cannot cover. And you've seen people talking about the cost of diabetes, for example, about 4,000 in a year. The cost of optical care is, I don't know, 1,000 in a year. And some of them are set to a household, meaning that they'll only cater for one person in the household. And they'll only once, maybe. And even that once, it may not cover the whole of it. And then lastly is what I'd already asked. What was so wrong with NHIF that we had to move
You know, the two doctors, unfortunately.
10 questions.
All right.
Yeah.
Valid questions, eh? We probably do not have a government representative here to speak. That's actually why I'm saying you might need to play the professional in this matter.
Yes.
Because then, and of course, hold brave for the government in terms of responding to some of those valid questions. Because what I hear is that, well, the questions would be, has there been proper public participation? Has there been proper, stakeholder engagement? No. Has there been proper civic education to this? Because then as it stands, it looks like, like I have said, the train has left the station and therefore no about turn unless it's going to be a proper court battle that, will take again ages and ages while Kenyans are still under SHIF or SHA. So before you get to respond to some of the queries that have been raised, allow us to speak to Edward, who is calling us live from Nairobi. Edward, if you can hear me. Edward, jambo.
Hello, habari yako? Hello.
Edward. Mzuri.
Mimi nilikuwa nauliza swali hivi.
Ndio.
Tunatoka NHIF tunaenda SHA.
Ndio, tunakusikiza. Labda utapunguza sauti ya runinga.
Mimi mwenyewe nimetumia hii nani kwa muda wa miaka 8. Kwa huo muda wa miaka 8, siku moja mtoto wangu ameugua, nikampeleka hospitali.
Ndio.
Wananiuliza, are you a civil servant? Watanishawishi vipi nitoke ile nilikuwa nalipa 500?
Ndio.
Alafu ndio tena nije nilipe email. Watanishawishi vipi ili niweze kukubaliana na hiyo SHA? Nataka wanishawishi. Ndio nione kitu wananishawishi kinaweza kufanya. Kwa sababu miaka 8 nimelipa hii pesa na sikuhudumiwa, ambayo pesa miaka 8 ningepatia mama yangu, angeniambia ubarikiwe na ningekuwa na maisha mazuri, lakini serikali haikusaidia na chochote. Asanteni.
Daktari, it goes back to you as well, ushawishi na mambo kama hayo. I hope you've noted down the questions you want to respond to, as well as, the ladies and gentlemen that we have on set, because we also have our health economist, which equally, is largely about our money. So hiyo pesa kama tupatie wazazi watuambie asante, ama tulipe na tukue sure ya kwamba tutapata health services as we expect. So allow us to take a quick short break and then we come back on that very note. The conversation is perhaps bigger than the time that we have, but all the same, we must
give it a shot.
Yes, give it a shot. All right, after this break.
June 2024, nationwide protests broke out in Kenya, opposing the 2024 finance bill. As the situation threatened to get out of hand, police officers were deployed to quell the unrest. Among them, Chief Inspector David Maina. Then hell broke loose. An explosive device went off, ripping off his forearms. He survives to tell the story.
I removed the pin, but there was, I don't know, there was some resistance. That pin, there was some problem with removing the pin. When it finally got off, and then I was just about to throw my stun grenade, I just saw darkness.
Join TV47's Lennox Sengre as he brings you an exclusive interview with Chief Inspector David Maina.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips And the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair on the sink.
It's about making them happen. From big wins.
In primary school, when we would be asked what people want to be, I was categorical that I want to be a nurse.
To hard lessons.
The consoles change, the gaming equipment keep changing.
We cover it all. Tune in to The Grind, where every episode is packed with insights.
The person who is serving customers, always be a customer-centric.
Strategies.
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
And stories to fuel your ambition. Don't just dream it, grind it. Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa, ng'ombe ipatikane, wazazi wakuwa watajiri.
Tunashughulikia yote.
I wish I were a better investor.
My parents taught me how to look for things for myself.
Tazama Mfahamu Kiongozi, ambapo kila kipindi kimejaa maarifa, mikakati na hadithi za kukuza azma yako.
For me to succeed, I have to fight.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30.
June 2024, nationwide protests broke out in Kenya, opposing the 2024 Finance Bill. As the situation threatened to get out of hand, police officers were deployed to quell the unrest. Among them, Chief Inspector David Maina. Then hell broke loose. An explosive device went off, ripping off his forearms. He survives to tell the story.
I removed the pin, but there was, I don't know, there was some resistance. That pin, there was some problem when removing the pin. When it finally got off, and then I was just about to throw.
And therefore, it will come down crumbling on us. I do not know whether that is the case.
This is an interesting conversation, ladies and gentlemen, and we have the people here to help us understand it. I want to pick up from what the guy who's calling, I believe his name was Edward.
Yes.
He had a problem with the costings, right? Now, I would like you, Beatrice, to talk to us a little bit about the costings of this. One of the questions, question number 8, I believe Dr. Chitai was talking about, is why does it look like the packages that are in this program are actually, the cost of it does not match what is, for ground or in the market? Can you talk to us, first of all, how does one go around costing, all these different packages, and why do you think they've been pegged where they've been pegged?
Victoria, hold your peace. We'll be coming to you. Please.
It means, by the look of things, a lot of guesswork was done, and that is why you are hearing providers having an uproar. Because basically, as a provider, let's say even if I'm in private sector...
Hang on. Just to simplify matters, when you say providers, for Kenyans who are listening out
these
there,
are the doctors, the clinics, the hospitals. It can be an individual clinic. Those are the providers.
All right.
So what that means is that if I am a surgeon and I'm going to do you an operation, I should do the costing of the gloves I'm going to use, of the nurse that is going to assist me, of the office space that I'm actually utilizing. Yeah, all that costing. So by the time a doctor is saying I'm charging you 100,000, it's based on that costing, and definitely they have to, if it's a profit-making kind of business, which is the private sector, they have to make a little bit of profit. That is business, so as to ensure continuity of business. But when it comes to government, costing has to be done to ensure it can generate enough revenue to sustain that service, so that you're not making the losses. Now, the reason there is an uproar is, for example, I remember there was one dentist who said doing a root canal, for example, in the private sector is around between 20,000 to around 35,000, thereabout, depending on where the location of the facility is. But when it comes to government, and they're going to use the same materials, because you see KEMSA is a supplier, is a chain supplier, and some of the private sectors, they actually get these materials from these guys. Then you come now and tell us that the costing of these two of root canal, which is around 20,000, and the benefit you're providing for me for dental services is around 2,000 Kenya shillings. Now, you see that disparity, someone asked, is it that it will just be enough for consultations to pay a dentist? Is it just enough to actually maybe in government facilities to do, what is it called? Tooth uproot. It's called tooth, is it? Kungoa jino. Extraction, yes. Tooth extraction is actually 500 shillings. That is the bare minimum, okay? So guys are now wondering how comes the provision that providers give, the costing that these providers give and say this is actually the adequate amount to ensure that we are sustainable, how comes it was thrown out of the window? Now, the other question that is arising, it's still these same issues of benefits. And that is why I would not convince any Kenyan to onboard, because if when I was paying 1,700 for those who are having a salary 100,000 plus, if with 1,700 shillings I was getting NHIF super cover, which was giving me dental services of up to 45,000 Kenya shillings, how comes now when I'm paying maybe my salary is let's say about 450,000, I'm being cut 13,300 every month, as an individual, as an employed person, my salary, my payslip, my payslip was being deducted 1,700. Anybody above 100, but now my payslip, if I'm earning 450,000, they're going to deduct me around 13,300, only to give me a benefit of 2,000 Kenya shillings. Now, this is my view. As an economist, this is my view. We are introducing socialism amongst the middle class to give breadcrumbs to the poor people, and then you enable the rich people to actually access quality services. And this is how I'm supporting this answer, because this is what it means. It means if the 2,000 is not enough, me who is rich, who has disposable income, what will happen? I can walk into every other clinic and actually afford and get the good root canal, true or false? But on the other hand, I, as the middle person, my payslip, remember the rich could not even be on a payslip. They could be these in the informal sector, but they are the wealthy. They're not employed by anyone. Then me who is employed, I'm actually paying a service that I can actually not benefit from. And yet the poor person, when they access this these services in these facilities, that 2,000 is also not enough. Are you getting how it is? So in essence, they're pushing down socialism and without any contradiction. William Ruto is presenting himself as a capitalist, but in real sense is pushing socialism among us who are in the middle class down to the poor people. And for me, that does not make sense, because even this proximine testing, they're actually what Dr. Chitai was introducing. What it does, it excludes the rich and excludes the middle class, because it is targeted kind of methodology, only targeting those who are poor. And the worst of it all, you see, you have to look at a system or a design of a system. You must make a policy humane, because it's going to serve the people. But you cannot put a system that is so mechanical, it crushes the same people you are trying actually to defend.
What is supposed to be the best criteria? Because then in this case,
the best criteria, no. So the kind of design, and
now for the means.
The kind of design they're using is what you call labor tax kind of healthcare financing.
Okay.
And in actual sense, we should have what we call general revenue healthcare financing, whereby
break it down.
Let me break it down. So labor tax kind of financing, it means it is in the projection that every person or every citizen within a country does a job one way or another. For example, we have the formal sector where you are employed by an employer, your name is registered somewhere that you work for TV47, for example. In the other informal sector, where now we are saying informal labor, it means I, Beatrice Cairo, who is a boda, like our friend here, I, Beatrice Cairo, who is an entrepreneur, like my friend here, we are earning an income, right? So when you introduce the 2.75 kind of percentage, you're saying, for the formal people, it is based on their gross salary, meaning as an employed person, that's where I'm generating my income from. Then for the informal sector, their 2.7 is on their income. So already that is a tax in itself. The government is a liar. They don't want to call it tax, but it is a tax because you have defined it. Now, the question comes here, because you have designed it as a kind of tax, for example. Now, you've said, I have to contribute 2.75 from my salary. Now, me who is employed, I, Beatrice Cairo, I'm employed maybe by TV47, for example, isn't it? Now, I also have an M-Pesa shop. I also have a salon. That is income, right? But you see, I will only contribute based on my payslip.
Okay.
But when I meet, for example, this lady who is an entrepreneur, she has 3 salons. Meaning her income, when the government comes to use the proxy means testing, is not saying these 3 salons is giving her 500,000. And how much will she be deducted the 2.75?
From the pay slip again? From this
income.
It has his income.
Salary. That already in itself is an inequality in itself. Because I will be paying less, but yet I have extra income, but I'm defended by my pay slip.
Is this not an upgrade from what we had with the NHIS?
It is not an
is it not a plus compared to what it is that we are doing with it? It is a plus compared to what we were doing with the NHIS.
My opinion is not a plus.
Let me be on the side of government.
No. And last but not least.
Please don't be the side of government for the sake of it.
I'm going to give the
reasons as to why.
Okay.
In a second.
Empirical evidence. I realized you said that in other countries it has worked. Empirical evidence has shown it doesn't work in the long run.
Okay.
That's what we call, now the current design is what we call the labor kind of tax financing. Okay. It has never worked. Actually,
Henry,
all right.
Are you getting lost?
Actually,
some more.
Global experts advocate. No. Global experts have actually even given information and given evidence that the actual way to go to ensure equality, to ensure sustainability, ensure there's no discrimination, is the general tax kind of revenue.
Okay, Beatrice.
Yeah.
You've dropped some big things on us. Let us digest that in a second.
Probably Henry is lost. Are you up so far?
I'm following. Simply in a border language.
Okay.
He's saying we are paying equal tax. We are all equal. Why are they discriminating? Because, like, for instance, we usually go to the same shops, pay the same tax. For bread, she will buy at 130 maybe, will buy the same price. So when it comes to medical, or when it comes to now the government provision of services, why are they discriminating us?
Have you registered?
No, I'm not yet registered because, first of all, as we said, there have been no enough public participation. So for us as border guys, we are still waiting to get to the bottom of the matter. So I should get the bottom of the matter, know whatever is going on, what is hidden in the agenda, and why are we, like, for instance, you try to compare NSSF or this SHA with the
NHIF.
moving from the education part, from the
funding model,
the 844 to CBC. But you see, it has gone gradually. We did not just tell the student that today you are not going to do the KCPE. Have to. It has gone gradual until those ones are finished. So we went gradually. So why is it that the NHIF is just being cut, and people have got money, of course, because that is like your savings. People have been working and have been keeping their money there. So where is our money going to?
It's a 1 year money. We need to talk about that.
That's a valid question he's asking. Lauren, do you know whether, do you know where your money, the money that you contributed to NHIF up to this point, do you know where it's going? Do you understand what's going to happen?
No.
I mean,
it's a catastrophe of confusion. The doctor needs to enlighten us.
No, but honestly, that is an unfair question, because
tell me why.
Where the money has been going is that it's been paying for somebody. You know, so the way we need to think about it as Kenyans, don't beat me, but the way we need to think about it as Kenyans is this: you pay 500 shillings a month, say, those who are self-employed. And then somebody goes and gets a dialysis for 9,500 per session. This person also pays 500 bob like you. It is clearly, the mathematics is very clear to you and me that 500 yake
cannot sustain his dialysis.
So it is your 500, my 500, his 500 has, us who are not sick, who don't have dialysis, that is helping this one person. So yes, you have been putting money in NHIF, isn't it? But you have not been putting that money there as a saving. You have been paying for somebody else who is sick. In turn, if you ever fall sick, somebody else who is healthy will pay for you. That is the principle of insurance. So first of all, let us move away from the idea that nimekuwa nikiweka huko pesa yangu kama there is no savings. What you have been doing, is socialism. You have been helping to provide care for another person. Yani mkono unapatiana na hii mkono itarudishiwa. But I want to answer something about this issue of fairness that my colleague here was talking about. Why is it that 2.75% is appearing unfair to other people, and the NHIF 1700 was looking fair? I will tell you, to be honest and without any fear of contradiction, when you earn $1 million shillings, and there are very few Kenyans who actually earn $1 million shillings. There are not that many. By the way, we saw the data some other time. The database for people earning over 100,000 is not even beyond 500,000 Kenyans. There are very few.
Formal sector or informal?
Across.
Overall.
Actually, the data that is there, you and I know
people
that
lie.
A lot of people in informal sector
lie.
They hide their income.
They lie.
And that is part of the argument why the government people are saying we will proxy means test, okay? Because we know even KRA has never been able to catch you, but we will catch you. Of course, that is very... But the point is this, a person earning $1 million shillings was paying 1,700. A person earning about 20,000, no, 100,000, let's say 100,000 for fairness. 100,000 was also paying 1,700. The argument by the architects of the system is that the person who was earning $1 million shillings was contributing what is negligible as their income to this common basket for all of us to enjoy healthcare. So put it at 2.75% so that it is 2.75% of $1 million. And it is also 2.75% of 100,000. Everybody is paying according to their ability. The only problem I have with this setup, this is a problem I have with this setup. Number one, the informal sector is not going to contribute. Those people who are paying voluntarily, you will not find them. Whether you say it is 5%, 1%, they will still find a way of not paying this. And that is why the approach was wrong. Number two, proxy means testing is the wrong instrument, because it will exclude... You know what proxy means testing? Wakenya wanasikia, they are hearing proxy means testing. Let me simplify. It is a way of targeting the poor. So in other words, it is an instrument that is used to exclude anyone who is not poor. It is designed to reduce the liability of government. It is not designed to help government pay. It is designed to help government not pay. So how the instrument will be deployed is that it will exclude anyone who looks like you have an income. If you have a boda, you are rich. I mean, how did you afford to buy a motorcycle? You see, if you are,
there's a question.
You have a fridge. If you have a fridge in your house, which your your people gave you as a wedding gift. You know, people can give a microwave.
You're wealthy.
You are rich. You see,
But
so
push
it
more
excludes like
inequality.
this. So the problem we have with proxy means testing is that eventually it will classify people who are poor as wealthy.
Yes.
And those poor people who will be classified as wealthy will be required to pay a premium that is unreasonable to their income. And what they will do, they will default. What we supported, and I'm saying this as a healthcare provider and supporting her on this one as an economist, we said they should have gone for general taxation.
Yeah.
And they argued that general taxation is a regressive because general taxation means that those people who have less incomes spend more of their income in tax. This is what I mean. It means that if you earn, say, 10,000 shillings, it is more likely that you spend 9,000 out of that 10,000 just to survive.
True.
You spend it on transport, on food. Yani at the end of the day, out of 10K, you remain with a little. So we tax 90% of your income essentially because 9,000 is spent and we tax on spend. But if you earn 100K, you can live on 20,000. Which means 80,000 is not taxed. Okay. So there are people who argue that it is regressive because it targets those people who have less income. But can I say you a trick? It is also the most fair system because once those public services become available, guess who benefits number one?
The people.
True.
Let's pick this phone call.
Okay, we actually have a phone call. Just before we begin, we've got a phone call and we've kept him on the line until at least you finish the point. Our caller, good evening. What's your name? Where are you calling from? And what's your question or comment? Good evening. And I can hear you listening to yourself. Please reduce the volume.
Hello.
Yes, ndugu. Habari gani?
Nimerudi tena.
Yes.
Nafikiri daktari ameongea, ngoja nimwambie vizuri. Safi. Nasema hivi daktari.
This is Edward from
Nairobi. Sisi watu ambao tuko informal sector tunalipa shilingi 500.
Sawa.
Tukishalipa shilingi 500, ina maana kuna watu wataugua, watakuja wapate huduma. Lakini mimi nikiugua nirudi niende hospitalini pale, wananiuliza if I'm civil servant. Ina maana sisi ambao ni informal sector tunawafanyia kazi wale ambao wako serikalini. Sasa sisi ambao sio wafanyakazi wa serikali tunanyanyaswa.
Okay.
Mfano, mimi nilirejista Buruburu.
Okay.
Niliporejista Buruburu ikawa kwamba nimeenda nitibiwe. Nikaenda zaidi ya hospitali 5 ambazo nilirejista napaswa kwenda kutibiwa hapo.
Okay.
Wananiuliza you civil servant? Nawaambia hapana. Wananiambia nirudi pale ambapo nilirejista ndio walipa, but nikifika tena wanalipa fomu nyingine, wananiambia niende kujaza ndio nilete tena. Sasa mimi nauliza mpaka nitoe ile kadi, si nilikuwa nimejaza fomu.
Okay.
Kwa hiyo anazungumzia wakati wa NHIF au SHA?
Mtanishawishi vipi ili nirudi hapo? Nianze kulipa hiyo 300 tena. Na wakati nililipa 500 haikunisaidia.
All right. Asante Edward, nafikiri tumekupata na swali lako tutazingatia na nafikiri wenzetu watatuambia. Naomba tuchukue break kidogo. Let's take a short break. Tukirudi, Edward na wengineo ambao mnatutizama utapata majibu ya maswali yenu. Let's take a short break. We'll be right back.
June 2024, nationwide protests broke out in Kenya, opposing the 2024 Finance Bill. As the situation threatened to get out of hand, police officers were deployed to quell the unrest. Among them, Chief Inspector David Maina. Then hell broke loose. An explosive device went off, ripping off his forearms. He survives to tell the story.
I removed the pin, but there was, I don't know, there was some resistance. That pin, there was some problem with removing the pin. When it finally got off, and then I was just about to throw my stun grenade, I just saw darkness.
Join TV47's Lennox Sengre as he brings you an exclusive interview with Chief Inspector David Maina.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in? I was number 2. What position were you? Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism, how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair on the sink.
It's about making them happen. From big wins.
In primary school, when we would be asked what people want to be, I was categorical that I want to be a nurse.
To hard lessons.
The consoles change, the gaming equipment keep changing.
We cover it all. Tune in to The Grind, where every episode is packed with insights.
The person who is serving customers, always be a customer-centric.
Strategies.
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
And stories to fuel your ambition. Don't just dream it, grind it. Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa, ng'ombe ipatikane, wazazi wakuwe watajiri.
Tunashughulikia yote.
I wish I were a better investor.
My parents taught me how to look for things for myself.
Tazama Mfahamu Kiongozi, ambapo kila kipindi kimejaa maarifa, mikakati na hadithi za kukuza
Welcome back to the broadcast, and we go straight to Amnesty International. So you have been dedicated to advocating for the rights of the people, and evidently, ground haijafurahi. Do you suppose you've done enough in terms of echoing these voices just so could have, slugged the process kidogo too?
Yeah, so we definitely need more civic education. When the call for submissions for memoranda were out, we tried as much as possible to engage. We tried to give out information about what SHIF is about, but unfortunately, most of the recommendations were ignored. Some other organizations and other partners went to court. We all know what happened. And unfortunately, just from a slight perusal of the Court of Appeal decision that decided to, lift the stay, I would not like to comment too much, but it seems like just because we've had laws pending for 9 months becomes sort of like a justification why we should not continue the stay. Like, let's just implement, because the laws are there already and we've taken too much time. It's going to cause chaos and confusion. But what we do not understand is, as it is, we are heading directly into a very big crisis.
Well, Amnesty, we know.
Just a moment,
all right.
if you may. Could you paint a picture for Kenyans? What kind of crisis are we looking at? What are you looking at? What's this doomsday scenario that you're projecting?
We are looking at human rights violations in terms of denial of services. For example, his first question, why is it mandatory? Why is it that we have a whole section talking about you need proof of registration of SHIF and contribution for you as a precondition for government services at the national and county government levels. So if I need a passport, I need to show proof of, why are we tying other government services to registration and contribution to SHIF? So that means, for example, in terms of education, I'll not be able to enroll my child into other, I'll not be able to get other public government services.
Not even get an ID.
Because I'm not ready. Like SHIF, this thing is not meant to be a national ID. So why am I required to have it for me to access other services? That's already that already paints a picture of violations that are going to take place. Number two, we are talking about people who are going to default. People who are now selecting, I don't have a microwave, I don't have a fridge. Like, even the testing itself sounds more like abdacadabra to any ordinary Kenyan, because why would I, having a microwave, determine how much I'm going to pay? Because maybe I acquired it either as a gift or I acquired it when I had a job once upon a time, and now I'm unemployed. So how do I then pay based on that? So already there's so much confusion.
Have your voices been loud enough? Because this is Amnesty International we're talking about. Have you been loud enough as to this matter?
Yes, and we're saying this because when we made our submissions, it got to the committee level, and at the plenary, I remember an MP saying that we are not bound by the committee recommendation. And even after that, we stood in solidarity and with other organizations, including KMPDU, that went to court, to voice the voices of the people, to say that this is not good for the people and it will not work. And up till today, we still have the medical practitioners saying this will not work, but no one is listening. So, yeah.
Yeah, let's engage Lauren for a second. You have some pretty strong feelings about this. What do you think you're going to do personally? Are you going to register?
I will not do that. I actually have a question for the government. Yeah, we do pay taxes, right, all over. Like, we do shopping, and taxes they are like incorporated in there. So, what happens exactly to the taxes they collect? Because I feel like a percentage of those taxes should be used to cover this health issue. Because most people, like Dr. has said, most people will not be able to cover those charges. And I do not understand why one day, like NHIF is working all right, and the next day you're waking up and it's no longer a thing. Like why? Why so sudden?
Let me interject.
Yeah?
Let me interject. NHIF, as it was, had its own issues based on research, whereby they realized it was having deficiency. So in terms, when you contribute your 500, this other person is cutting his salary. The administrative cost was very high for NHIF in administering its insurance. And every time it used to be deficient in terms of, that's why you're looking at the gaps that it had. For example, they have not been able to pay back providers, they have not been able to pay back to facilities. So what had happened to NHIF is what we call purchaser capture, whereby now they have been captured by providers to determine how this insurer is supposed to move. While in actual sense, NHIF was supposed to dictate. It was supposed to be a strategic purchaser. What do we mean by a strategic purchaser? It means these are my members. My members need these services. My members are ailing from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you as a provider, I want you to provide 1 or 2, whatever list of services to my members. But under what circumstances are you supposed to provide to my members? Now, based on my analysis, based on my costing, the much I can pay for my members is maybe 10,000 shillings for delivery. And this should actually have been done with NHIF. They should not have done guesswork. Previously, NHIF just used guesswork based on what a provider will tell NHIF. Like me as a surgeon, I can charge this thing 120,000. When he said now urologists were able to push in some of their what is it called? The benefits they had to push that was favorable to them, but not favorable to dentists or favorable to other practitioners. So, in essence, somebody suggested NHIF should have done the actual costing. It should have had its own actuaries. They sit down and tell a provider, when I do all this analysis and even basing on the location of each facility, this is the much you can actually be reimbursed when it comes to the offering of these services. So NHIF had not done. So it was that saying about Kadabla and whatever. So what used to happen, you would find that it would go, maybe, for example, pays a certain facility 50 million, while in retrospective, another one is going to be given 40 million. So cumulatively, it realized that at the end of it all, there was a deficiency. There was a deficiency in terms of its efficiency. So the efficiencies were occurring. One, there was the issue of the technical efficiency and allocative efficiency. So it means when I reimburse public facility, I think they're reimbursing 1,200 and something. And then when I reimburse a private facility, I'm reimbursing 2,850. Now, what Edward was calling about and saying, how comes he's feeling discriminated, is because if I walk into a facility and they say I am a civil servant, they realize, this one, our reimbursement will be 2,800. And remember, there was a cover for the civil servant,
right.
There was a cover for the national scheme, and there was a cover for the HIS. These are the poor people. There was a cover for them. So what would happen, if I walk into a facility, the provider would know who you need civil servant, who you need national scheme. This is just an average former Kenyan who is having a business, and this is a poor person. So what will our facility do? They will take good care. Exactly.
Right.
So now the issue was,
I have to take care of facility.
No. Let me
that's fair enough. Let's allow it, because you also.
So the issue was,
make it.
I was trying to show her why. Yeah, no.
Let us be fair enough, yeah.
So
let us be fair.
Was, how do we harmonize to ensure all these services when a Kenyan walks into a healthcare facility, there is no that discrepancy or discrimination. You shouldn't know whether I am poor, whether I am a civil servant, or whether I am from the national.
Fair enough. Let us. And doctor, yes.
And mine will be brief. So she said something about somebody said that costing should have been done. Actually, I'm that person, or it's a person like me who says NHIF should have done costing, or the SHA should have done costing. But the point is that I want to make, that we are going to lose a lot of learnings from NHIF. NHIF has been here for many years, but this transition is leaving behind a lot of good work that NHIF had done and learned, and some things that they are put in place. Let me give you an example. while representing the psychiatrists, we had sat down with NHIF and other experts, actuaries, and done costing for mental health services in Kenya. Let me give you an example of such a service, substance use treatment. So we did costing and determine how much, if somebody is admitted for substance use treatment, will they need, so that we can determine how much they need for the 90 days of rehab. And so we came up with a figure of per day, they'll need 4,120 shillings. Now, if you multiply that, I think it's 4,130 shillings or thereabout. If you multiply by 90 days, it comes to about 388,000. So that's the figure that we proposed to SHA when we submitted our views. You know how much they allocated for rehabilitation? 67,000 shillings, which is just 7,000 shillings above what they were giving before, which is 60,000, of which it cannot cover the cheapest rehab in Kenya, which is 130,000 at Mother.
Look at this. Look at this. This was supposed to be my question for you. Now that you're talking about psychiatrists and just how, the health benefit packages that come along with that, you say it's only about 7,000 more. So what are some of the sustainable ways that you can, propose so that we can enhance this under SHA?
Yeah, actually,
because we have to speak progressively, all said and done, before we come to you.
Just to add,
progressively, yes.
I know. To be honest, when you listen to the challenges that are affecting this thing, they're humongous. There's a lot. I mean, we've said there's a trifecta here. People don't understand it. Some people are entering into this engagement with dishonesty in mind, and the system is flawed. Can we shift the conversation to recommendations on what we can do?
Well, until if this is going to be successfully challenged to you, what are some of the enhancements that need to be done under SHA?
Look, I may go into the details of the specific benefit packages and what was being proposed. I think that information already is with SHA. All professional organizations sent in memoranda giving the appropriate costs of these services. KMA already said they said in 26 points. All of them mostly looking at the cost, but also just looking at one problem I saw is that it is over-prescriptive even in some cases. For example, they say that for you to be tested for screened for prostate cancer, you have to be above 55 years. There's no reason as to why it should be 55. They say that those to be screened for colon cancer should be men above 40 years, while women also get colon cancer. So all women are actually excluded from screening of colon cancer. You find such problems within this SHA. And we have given recommendations, but they have not been listened. So for me, what I would say is that, can we go back to the recommendations that we gave? They were very good. Both healthcare workers and ordinary Kenyans and healthcare providers, they gave very many good recommendations.
Fair enough.
Were largely ignored.
Daktari, as you come in, let us talk roughly about Rufus and the adjustments that perhaps you have made from NHIF up until this point. What will be the situation moving forward? If any adjustments, tell us which, even as you respond.
Let me just tell you how we as RUFA think you fix this scenario. Number one, we have, as I said, 3 baskets. We have SHIF, we have primary health care, we have emergency and chronic.
Okay.
Now, can I just elaborate that SHIF is contributory, okay? Primary care and emergency and chronic critical illnesses are funded by appropriations of parliament, which means essentially they are tax
funded.
A lot of us feel like that should have been the way. How do we fix this? Number one, the jitters are around the tax-funded baskets. The allocation to primary health care is insufficient. Fix number one, let the government of Kenya allocate sufficient resources for primary health care. We are talking about 4.1 billion allocated when the actuaries and the people who costed it said we need a minimum of 45B to treat Kenyans.
It's less than 10%.
Yes, it's less than 10%. Now, the answers that we have gotten we have asked these questions. Why 4.1 billion instead of 45 billion? The best answers we have gotten is that, there is supplementary budget, we can increase, we can shift, but it is contingent on Kenyans registering for SHA. So, if I was to advise Kenyans, as a doctor and somebody in this field, I would say register. Because if you don't register, the message you are sending is that 4.1 billion is enough. Because they will say, but why are providers crying for more money when only 1.2 million Kenyans have registered? Is 4.1 billion enough to provide for 1.2?
Okay.
We'll say, yes, it's okay. 2, the second thing is emergency chronic and critical illnesses fund needs to be funded. That is a tax-based system. It needs money. Third, we need the issue of proxy means testing to be thrown out of the window.
Yeah, agreed.
It is not going to work.
Yeah.
Proxy means testing cannot work. What needs to happen is let us find a better way of targeting this informal segment where they will not contribute by introducing more general taxation.
Okay.
The argument has been, if you introduce general taxation and government collects more revenue, they will use that revenue to buy land cruisers. They will, because when money comes to treasury, it doesn't have a name sheaf on it. It's just money, So people have been arguing it will be, but the MPs, the same MPs who banned midnight oil to pass 4 laws within 3 weeks, they can create a legislation that ring fences the money that is collected from this general taxation and say this percentage when it is charged, it is strictly for healthcare financing. Ikifika treasury, don't touch. That law can be made. So we need to move to that.
Okay.
Finally, on the issue of back to providers, the reason why providers are going to opt out of SHA is historical debt. Today, I am, I'm getting some updates. I'm being told they are saying now, since SHA is on board, every month they will be allocating 4 billion to pay our debts.
But inherited from NHIF.
Yes. Okay, well and good. SHA is supposed to inherit NHIF debt. But remember, in this country, we have a pending bills committee that was supposed to review all these debts, and the government was supposed to actually, through treasury, pay all debts that had no issue.
By the way, just
in essence,
for
it is
Kenyans,
unfair.
How much was owed to private healthcare?
29 billion.
29 billion. How much has been paid so far?
You can never finish paying it because it is a moving target. Let me explain this.
From the last time when the former
It has never been
CS
paid. In fact, I can bet you the number is even higher because today, this moment as we are speaking, a bill is being entered in the system.
All right.
So it is so what we are saying is that we even know who owes who what. This 29 billion that is owed to providers is owed by government agencies, sagas, parastatals, all these government, they are the ones who owe money. Let Treasury release that. It is unfair to increase the taxation of Kenyans to 2.75%, and then instead of using that money to provide them with state-of-the-art healthcare, you use it to retire NHIF debt, which was not paid by the same state agencies. So we need these things fixed. Number one, make sure primary healthcare is funded. Make sure emergency chronic and critical illnesses is funded. Sort out proxy means testing, throw it out of the window. 3, pay historical debt. And then now the House will settle and we can start addressing Dr. Chitai's issues. Oh, by the way, because I will tell you, for instance, there is a cataract surgery, one which is a very complicated surgery and another one is very simple. They have both been assigned the same amount of money. Those ones, we know there are a lot of nitty-gritty issues in the benefits package that we can't discuss now because the noise is too much.
Okay, Lorraine, what does it take to reduce the noise? What would satisfy you right now?
Civic education to begin with. And this is the thorn in the flesh. Accountability. We need to know where these monies they are asking for. Inaenda wapi? Yeah, we need to know. Because it's a lot. Like, when you compare it from NHIF, the premiums, it's a lot. Where is it going to? Yeah, we need accountability and civic education. Yeah.
All right. What about you, Henry? What would satisfy you and your members right now?
I think as a boda, I just need a simple thing, understandable thing.
Henry, si uongee tu na watu wa bodaboda, uongeze ka Kiswahili hapo kidogo ndio wakufail kwa ground. Na pia like he says, maybe it's important to register alafu watu wajulie mbele.
What are you
I think acha niseme hivi. Kukuja kwangu hapa pia kumenisaidia na kutasaidia wana bodaboda because nasikiza mambo mengi. Nimemsikia daktari akisema tujisajili ndiposa serikali isione kuwa zile pesa ambazo zimepatianwa zinakuwa ni kama zinatosha. Zikuwe ni kidogo kwa sababu wale watakuwa wamejisajili watakuwa wengi zaidi ya zile pesa ambazo serikali imepeana. So tusionyeshe serikali kuwa hii pesa wamepeana ni ya kutosha kwa sababu watu wamerejista wachache. So sisi kama wanabodaboda tunataka afya bora na ambayo inaeleweka kwa urahisi. Kusikue na haya mambo ambayo ni mambo fiche, kwa sababu hii mchakato wote wa mambo ya SHA ina mambo mengi ambayo ni fiche, ambayo sasa sisi pia anatupa wasiwasi. Mbona hapa kunaenda hivi, hapa kunaenda, hatujaelewa. Kama vile mwenzangu amesema, tunahitaji ile education ama elimu ya umma ili tuweze kujua vizuri ni nini kinaendelea. Cha pili, tunataka viongozi ambao wako na wananchi katika roho yao. So tunaona kama viongozi wetu ni wale viongozi walafi, wacha nitumie hiyo neno kwa samani, lakini ni walafi. Viongozi ambao wanataka tuchukue pesa tuweke pale, kama vile daktari alivyosema, pesa ikishaingia kwenye hazina ya kitaifa haionyeshi kwa hii ni pesa ya SHA ama ile pesa nyingine ni ya maybe ni ya ushuru mwingine tofauti. Pesa yote inaenda pale kama pesa, so watatumia kujinufaisha wenyewe. Sasa tunataka viongozi ambao wako na sisi rohoni mwao, na kama watakuwa ni viongozi wa kujitakia wao wenyewe makuu, tunajua wao wana pesa za kutosha kujilipia bima yao ya afya. Sisi hatuna pesa ya kutosha. Vile daktari alivyosema, yule nimemuuliza swali la pesa ambayo tulikuwa tumeweka kwa NHIF, akasema zile pesa yule mtu ambaye alikuwa na mingi alikuwa analipia yule ambaye hana kama mimi. Lakini daktari, ni uongo, kwa sababu mimi mwenyewe nilikuwa, wakati nikipata mtoto wangu firstborn, tulikuwa na issue. So wakati tulikuwa na issue, ilibidi tumpeleke mama katika hospitali ya private ama hospitali ya kibinafsi. So tulipomfikisha pale, mimi niliambiwa hii pesa ya NHIF inaweza lipa tu kitanda na 2,500 peke yake. So nikamwambia hata sitaki, sikufuatilia hiyo because bill inakuja 54,000 and then serikali inataka kunilipia 2,500. So unaona huo ni upuzi tu. So nikaachana na. So sisi tunataka waweke vitu ambavyo vinaweza tusaidia. Kama wanamkata kweli ule mtu analipa shilingi 1,000,000, analipa mshahara wa shilingi 1,000,000, 2.7%, hiyo itakuja kama pesa ngapi? 27,000. Kwa nini sinilipia mimi na sigonjeki kila siku? Sababu tangu nianze kulipa NHIF labda hata nimegonjeka mara moja. Unaona? Kwa miaka kama 10. So hata pia ulivyokuwa unasema wanatulipia, hawatulipiangi kitu because hatukonjeki sisi wote. Tukigonjeka sisi wote serikali haiwezi kutupa.
Interesting. There's a video that we heard. Yeah. Quickly, if we have it. DJ Kroba. Yes.
What are your views?
So good evening, guys. I have some crazy ones for you. So today evening at around 6:30 p.m. there, I've got a phone call from her dialysis center. Not only her, but thousands all over the country, that tomorrow morning, 1st of October, tomorrow morning, if you have to come and do your dialysis, you have to pay cash. Now, thousands of Kenyan patients who have CKD, chronic kidney failure, CKF, chronic kidney failure, depend on NHIF to pay for their dialysis, because dialysis is really, really expensive. It is 9,500 per session. So my wife does 2. The people who do 3 in a week. So it's a pretty costly thing. And if an intervention is not done, this is going to end up really, really badly.
That's an individual who acknowledges also that NHIF has played a role in terms of, assisting them at some point. So it's rather complicated, even as you.
Yes, Zainab, from a human rights perspective, what are your recommendations?
So first of all, we need not commoditize rights. Rights are public, like it should be public goods that cannot be privatized, cannot be commoditized. Number 2, the government needs urgently to listen to experts and professionals. So whatever recommendations are being given need to be heeded to avoid further human rights violations. Yeah.
All right. What about you, Beatrice? Your recommendations from where you sit?
First and foremost, we need to call out the government for intellectual dishonesty. We must agree they have been dishonest with Kenyans, and they have duped Kenyans into entering into a design that doesn't work for them and is going to put them in a lot of slavery. That we cannot condone. We fought colonialism to get out of slavery, and this same government is pushing us towards that dimension. One of my recommendations would be, let's move away from income, labor tax kind of funding of healthcare system. I agree with Daktari that if indeed people have to register through SHA, they are registering so that the government can know the number of people seeking healthcare, but not to compel me to contribute. We should make it non-contributory. This government, or the government that we are currently having, is running away from its responsibility. The former president said each day 2 billion is lost in this country. So we have an economic problem, we have a corruption problem, and we cannot solve this problem by taxing more the payslip. They are trying to hide economic problems, they are trying to hide corruption problems through our payslips. Us as Kenyans, we cannot agree on that. So this country collects a lot of revenue, and we are funding people's lifestyles, and at the expense of who? My payslip. So we are saying this government can actually, even without cutting any money from your payslip, to actually fund all those refundings and even collapse into one. And what am I saying about that?
As you cut to chase.
Yeah, I'm just saying in essence that so long as I'm a Kenyan citizen, all I would have been required to do, like what we have in the UK. And that's why I was rebuking you and saying, labor income tax used to be things of the past. Developed countries don't actually do that. Now, at least then they have a formalization of employment. As in Africa, there's Mama Mboga, there's a pastoralist, there's whatever. The informal sector is more huge, to some extent, even 70% in low middle countries. So what I'm saying, this would be my recommendation. We abolish contributions. We endorse non-contributory. Then if you want to know which Kenyan went where, then we can register to that SHA. But if it's going to be tied, like she said, where it's transgressing human rights, that I have to confirm I have contributed certain amount of money to access these services, then that is already wrong. And it's actually going against the Constitution. Number two, can we actually follow the law? This government, that's why I'm saying a lot of intellectual dishonesty, it is not actually following the law. And then let them be honest with Kenyans. The aim of this government, I usually say in philosophy, there's a spirit behind. Someone can come and show us they are smiling and giving us candy, but the spirit behind it is to poison us. And this is this is the essence why I'm saying it's poisoning us. It is poisoning us in terms of in terms of you coming and telling us that this SHA is good, but in actual sense, it is for domestic sourcing and funding.
Fair enough. No, Beatrice, no. We have to go next to Daktari. With all due respect, because we are out of time. Right, so. Thank you. Proceed, Daktari.
Okay, my opinion is that we should stop rushing Kenyans. We should stop bulldozing Kenyans into the social health insurance. Already we've seen, even from the clip you've played, that the rollout is extremely shambolic. It will continue to become more chaotic, and lives could actually be lost. Kenya is not going anywhere. The courts have already pronounced themselves on this issue. These laws have been declared unconstitutional, null and void. Even these laws we are discussing, SHIF and the Primal Healthcare Act and the other digital health law, all these are unconstitutional. So the law in operation right now is NHIF. Let's go back to NHIF. Let's take more time. Let's reflect. Let's take into account the actual views of Kenyans and professionals, and we can come up with a better social health insurance plan.
Thank you.
Yeah. Right.
I would say it is the best of times. It's the best of times because for the first time in the history of this country, what you extract from my payslip matters. I like this. For the first time, Kenyans will feel the pinch of being deducted 5,000 shillings or 6,000 or 7,000 or 10,000 and going to a facility and finding no drugs. I feel it's the best of time because for the first time, Kenyans will care about their hospitals having drugs, having doctors, having nurses. For the first time, imagine you earn 1 million shillings and you are deducted, show up 27,500. You will stop sitting in your mansion thinking, NHIF is for poor people. Now it matters to you. For me, this is one of the
It's a wake-up call.
It's one of the best things that has ever happened, because now finally, I think we will start demanding the healthcare we deserve.
Great.
Finally.
All right.
Thank you.
Good people. Clearly, as you can tell, this is a conversation that's bigger than the time that we have. But I want to thank each and every one of you for sharing your insights tonight. Asanteni, I know there's been a lot of passion over there. Henry and Lorraine, I want you guys to just, quick as you can, give us your parting shot, okay? We went round and we've gone round again. I want the two of you to give us our parting shot. But even as they do that, I want to say thank you for each of you for sharing your insight. Hopefully in the days to come, we will come and discuss a few more things.
And celebrate.
If there's something worth celebrating.
Right.
Please, Lorraine, your parting shot, quick word to Kenya. This is your camera.
I'll just say, like, if this is what we're supposed to be doing as a country, as Kenyans, let's welcome. If the government brings out civic education, let's listen, let's learn, because clearly NHIF is gone. It's not coming back. But let's demand for accountability.
Right.
Accountability. That's very important. Okay. Yeah. Because we cannot be paying all that money and you're not getting half of the services. Yeah.
All right.
And the services are bogus.
All right.
It's of no use.
Thank you so much. Henry, message to your members, to the public.
Unajua members wangu sasa wanasikia Kiswahili sana na nilirudisha kwa Kiswahili. So, mimi ningependa tu kumalizia kwa kusema kuwa serikali iache upakuzi, ichukue kila Mkenya kwa usawa. Na pia tunataka another thing, vile daktari amesema imekuwa ni a wake up call. Tunataka tuone hawa familia za hawa watu wako kwa serikali wakitibiwa pia katika hizo hospitali. So that kukue na healthcare ambayo ni mzuri. Si ati wanatutibu hapa na hiyo SHA alafu wao wanaenda UK.
Okay.
Najenga nchi na nchi haikujengi.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much once again. The good people at home, thank you for sending in your feedback. Do you have some feedback?
Huyu sijui tumwambie aje. Anauliza, what happens to the people who had already paid 6K for the whole year in NHIF? Hiyo imeenda aje? Ule mwenye alienda
now in SHA.
It is now in SHA automatically.
Automatically.
Good.
In SHA.
All right.
Right.
All right.
Once again, thank you so much. Keep your eyes focused on this conversation on our channel as well as our digital platforms. It's a big conversation. Everyone in the country cares about this thing. It affects you, it affects me. This is not a time for all of us as a country to be apathetic, to put this aside to the experts. We all need to be involved. Our voices need to be heard. This is something that affects all of us and the future of this country. And from me and the team that made this a reality, I want to say good night and God bless you.
All right, the conversation continues on our socials. Please engage and let's all come together to make the most and the best of our health sector. My name is Linda Alela. We appreciate Zaina Kombo, Amnesty International Manager. We also appreciate Beatrice Cairo, Health Economist, as well as Dr. Chitai Murabula, Consultant Psychiatrist, and not forgetting Dr. Brian Glishenga, the Chairperson of the Rural and Urban Private Hospitals Association, as well as Lorraine Mukami, Entrepreneur, and last but not least, Mochwenga Henry, who is the Treasurer, Boda Boda Safety Association. Asanteni sana. And you back at home for watching. It's a wrap. Have a lovely, lovely night.